Hello everybody and welcome to the telephone box at Shackleford in Surrey. Now you might be wondering why I'm standing under a telephone box. Well, I thought to myself, who's the tallest running shoe tuber? I think it's probably Andy Forrest of Dean Runner, whose top I've got on here. I think he's 6'6" and I'm 6'5" or 1m95. Now as it happens, the glass on this telephone box seems to be exactly 1m95. Ed Budd's also very tall, he's about 6'3". And Jamie from Jamie's Running must be very tall, as he also takes the UK 13, same size that Andy and myself do. So I was thinking, what could I do to make myself taller than Andy? Well, my secret weapon today is the Adidas Adizero Prime X here. This is in the UK 12.5. They just about fit me, I think, but these are the ones with a 50mm stack. So if I put these on, and let's see how much taller I can get.
You see it says on the shoe there's actually a 50mm stack, and then if I actually measure it with my tape measure, that is actually more like 55mm in my size. Okay, so I've actually got the Adidas Prime X's on now, and here they are.
So standing up in the Prime X's, how much taller have I got? I think I've definitely cleared the glass now, haven't I? Let's get my tape measure out and see how tall I am. So I think it's my actual height, 1m95, but I've put on these Prime X shoes, actually get to the exalted heights of 2 meters exactly, where those little red dots are. Right, so what I'm going to do now is going to go for my first run in these Prime X shoes and see how they feel. I'm meant to be doing 10 by 3 minutes today at about sort of half marathon type pace, maybe bordering onto 10k pace with a minute recovery. So it'll be a good test. I'll do about a mile warm up, and then we'll get into some 3-minute intervals. And in the intervals, hopefully I'll be able to give a little review and my usual scores on the way. So a bit of a different shoe review today, but I thought this is such an unusual shoe that would see how they feel. Now, of course, these shoes aren't actually race legal, but who's going to be checking these sort of things? And I'm sure, I think unless you're a high caliber athlete likely to be winning prizes in big competitions, nobody's likely to be checking your shoes. If you're just running around the middle of the pack somewhere, well, I think if you can wear pretty much anything you like, no one's going to bother. But technically you can't wear shoes with more than 40mm stack, although that is in the size EU42, I think. But I think these ones are definitely going to be more than that, even in that sort of size. So before I start my run, I thought I'd just give a quick impression of how they feel. Well, of course they do feel incredibly high. I thought Alpha Flies were high stack, but these things take to a different level. It feels like I'm actually on springs. Light Strike Pro is actually quite a soft material actually. I've got the Adios Pro 2 as well, and they definitely feel kind of a lot softer than, say, Light Strike, which is quite a firm material. So say in the Boston 10 with the Light Strike and the Light Strike Pro combination, it feels like quite a firm shoe, but a shoe that's all Light Strike Pro, that just feels really bouncy. I mean, I'm just walking along here, I feel like I'm literally on springs. It's kind of a strange sensation. They do actually fit a bit longer, I think, than the Adios 6 and the Boston 10. If I just show you my toes in these ones.
So I've actually got a little bit of room there, which is quite nice.
So I think in terms of fit, I think of all the 4 new shoes, the Adios 6, the Boston 10, the Adios Pro 2 and the Prime X, these ones definitely feel like they fit the longest. There's only sort of millimeters in it, but as you probably know, the UK 12.5 for me is a bit dicey. I'm probably better in a 13 or 13.5, and unfortunately they don't do them. So any shoe that runs a fraction long is definitely to be welcomed. So these are quite promising in that sense. Right, so actually better get on with this run then, hadn't I? Okay, we've almost done a mile now, and these are the most craziest shoes I've ever worn. I've been a runner now for what, 40 years. I've probably got about 100 shoes in my closet at the moment, and I don't think I can think of anything like this. Just feel like you're sort of on pogo sticks. It's completely weird. I don't think they're a fast shoe, because they're just so bouncy. I think they're actually more designed to be like a long run shoe to save your legs for the next day. That's what I heard the Adidas manager Nick Roche saying when he was interviewed by Running Warehouse, and a Facebook comment he made. He also made a comment that they're actually looking at trying to get some bigger sizes in these Adizero shoes. How much I believe that, don't know. We certainly won't see any in the current releases, but maybe the next versions hold out. But the fit's not too bad in these actually. Okay, 2 3-minute intervals done. Haven't changed my mind, these are the craziest shoes I've ever worn. And you can go up to speed, but you've got to watch every stride almost, because it's so unstable, especially at the rear. So if you're coming down the hill, sort of landing more on your heels, then it's just sort of all over the place. I did sort of feel like that Adios Pro 2 originally, so I don't know if I'm going to get used to them, but there's my bleep for the next one. So speed, score 6 out of 10 so far. Okay, 4 down I think. And cushioning score, on a scale of 1 to 10, I think I have to give this a 10. There's just so much sponge here, so springy. Whether it'll remain springy or not, I don't know, but I've done now nearly 50 miles in the Adios Pro 2, which also in Lightstroke Pro. Literally about 10 mils less stack. But they feel very springy still. So yeah, cushioning 10 out of 10. Puts it on a par with the Invincible. Different type of shoe. They're certainly not a race shoe. People often ask, can you race in a shoe? Well, yeah, you can race in anything. Would you want to race in a shoe? Well, definitely not in these. 330 grams in my size, compared to 285 in the Adios Pro 2, about 250 in the next percent one. Right, next rep's off, 2 weeks later. Okay, I think that's 6 down. We're averaging about 6:30 pace. It's a bit up and down this course and the wind, a bit of a wind today, so I'm not really worrying about the pace, just putting some hard efforts in to test these shoes out. I think you get used to the wobbliness a bit like the Adios Pro 2, but certainly if you just go in a straight line with no camber, it's not too bad. As soon as you sort of deviate, go over some bumpy ground, bit of a camber to the side of the road, you just feel like wobbling all over the place, and even more so when you're running downhill. So I'm not sure that these are going to be a great shoe for hill strikers. So when I was sort of braking coming downhill, that's when it felt most unstable, which is kind of bizarre because that's where the most stack is. So, right, next rep then. Okay, I've actually done the last 2 reps on a trail. You've really got to be careful to put a mid-foot stride, but yeah, not quite as unstable as I thought that might be. But okay, I need to get back to Shackleford, so we'll see a bit later for the overall score. Okay, I'm on the warm down now. I just popped in there to catch a new street for citystrides.com. That's why I do these odd runs. I seem to do sort of fractal patterns, trying to run all the streets. It's a good little thing I like to do on easy runs, just to make them a bit more interesting. Having finished the session now, I think I'll revise my speed score to a 7 out of 10. So I've got to have a better score than the Boston 10, which I think I gave 6. And they are lighter, and they are bouncier by far. Go from the firmest shoe that Adidas do to about the softest, I think. Maybe apart from the Ultra Boost. I think they're potentially softer than the Ultra Boost. Different sort of foam, but very, very odd. It's kind of a struggle at warm down pace actually, so I feel like I'm rocking back on my heels a bit. Then I'm feeling the instability. When I was going faster, I think I was down to about 6:10, 6:15 on the road sections, and it wasn't too bad, but it just seemed like quite a lot of effort to get the feet off the ground because there's so much stack. I don't know how far you could go in them before you really start to feel it. I've run 7.5 miles now, and it'll probably be 9 time I get back to Shackleford, so that's a good afternoon's work. So back at Shackleford now at the end of the run. So what do I think for an overall score? Well, I think probably about a 7 out of 10. It's really hard to rate because they're such an odd shoe. It's probably the craziest shoe I've ever run in, but you sort of get used to them after a while. I did about 9 miles there, 10 by 3 minutes. I have to put up my splits and my average pace. Yeah, you sort of get used to them after a while, but as soon as you go to anywhere that's a bit bumpy or a bit off-road, so it's not a perfect level surface, it just feels like really wobbly, especially if you're going downhill or if you're a hill striker. I think that makes it even worse. So all that stack at the back, and you think, well, what's the point of all that? Because that's the most unstable bit, but you can't feel the road at all. So that was great. As I said, the cushioning score 10 out of 10, the fit an 8 out of 10. It's quite easy to get a good lockdown. And if I show you a little picture of the back of the heel cup, I think that's why they measure a bit longer, because there's very little material at the back. It's very flappy. Why I think the Prime X fits longer than the Adios 6 here is that the heel cup here is almost nothing next to it at all, whereas in the Adios 6 it's a lot more padded, so I think it effectively throws you forward. When I looked at the insoles, put this one in there, it fitted perfectly, so I don't think they actually lengthened the size of the Adios 6 to make them compensate for the fact they got this padding in. That's why I think the sizing is often off in Adidas shoes, because they never seem to take account for how much padding they put at the back. Whereas here you see this is like virtually next to nothing, so I can put my heel right back into there and get like further back in the shoe, so effectively then it gives me more length here. So an overall score of 7 out of 10, which may go up and down when I've been in this a bit more, but I think I got a good first run out of that. I managed to survive without twisting my ankle, because you do feel like a bit like you're going to on this one. Bit of a fun shoe, very expensive at £220, but yeah, if you're looking for something a bit different, something maximum cushion under your feet, it can go reasonably quickly. It went a bit quicker towards the end than I thought it was. I think once you go into a stable surface, it's all right, but yeah. So I hope you find this interesting. Like and subscribe and all that, and look forward to the next one then. Oh, and by the way, the telephone box isn't actually a telephone box, it's actually a library, would you believe? Which is quite common actually in England in these little villages.